One of the biggest and most ridiculous stories on the front pages this morning, front page of the Telegraph, is toddler kicked out of nursery for being transphobic, right? This turns out to be one of 94 pupils at state primary schools who were suspended or permanently excluded for transphobia and homophobia in 2022-23. The number's probably gone up. It includes 10 pupils from year 1 and year 3, from year 2. Maximum age of these children is 7. And one of them is a nursery age. Helen Joyce is here, Director of Advocacy for Sex Matters. Helen, you and I have had some mad conversations, but I suspect we won't have had a madder one than this. This is unbelievable.
You're using my lines, Mike. I honestly don't know what to say to you about this. When I heard about this, I was like, this has to be April Fool's early. But no, we are still before April Fool's Day. Yeah. We don't know what these kids exactly have done. My guess is it's one of two possibilities. One is that they're repeating things that they've heard at home, like my mum says boys can't be girls, right, or my parents say that only a man and a woman can get married. Right. Or the other possibility is they're using slurs that they've heard at home. And in neither case is this the child. I mean, in the first case, look, people are entitled to their opinions, but obviously children can't use slurs at school. So you should deal with this the same way that you deal with any other sort of slur. Right. I mean, children hear things and then they repeat them. So I'd love to know what this was about. And I thought the Department for Education's response was very weak. They just said something about their behaviour policy. But I mean, come on.
Yes. Well, because again, whenever they don't want to be found out, they don't want to be specific. When they do want to think that they've got a case, they do want to be very specific, don't they? But I mean, as you say, the idea that anybody under the age of 7 has got some kind of agency to take a view on anything in the world which can't be dealt with at the level of a nursery school teacher or a primary school teacher is just insane. You know, if they can't handle children, they shouldn't be teachers, should they?
And they shouldn't be importing adult ideas onto children either. I mean, I object hugely to the teaching of any of these ideas in the first place in primary school, let alone in nursery. Like, children shouldn't be taught any nonsense about gender identities, and yet they are. So if teachers weren't trying to bring in things that children shouldn't even be bothered with at that age, I mean, arguably any age, but certainly not when they're little, then this wouldn't even arise.
Well, of course it wouldn't. And as you say, it's very unclear what the bar is, isn't it? I mean, so you don't really know. I mean, we've seen Hertfordshire Police going to these people's homes over the course of last week in that story that we've all been reporting, because they took exception to something that was said on a WhatsApp group or an email to a school member, a member of the teaching team. I mean, it seems to me that teachers and school leaders have gone kind of slightly mad here.
Slightly. I mean, really, that I thought was the maddest story I had ever seen, and then along came the transphobic toddler. I mean, there's two things going on there. One is people thinking that, you know, things they don't want to hear are harmful. Right. Harmful in a way that you might go to the police or suspend a child for. And the second is this, again, it's this importing of ideology into places it just doesn't belong. Like, what were the police doing when the school went to them and said, we don't like these parents, they're sending us lots of emails? I mean, you'd think they'd have the common sense to say, yeah, well, maybe you don't like those emails, but, you know, too bad. It's like, don't read them. Don't read them. Wouldn't that be an idea?
We're a bit busy doing some quite important anti-criminal stuff. But this is the thing. I mean, Matthew Syed wrote a good piece about this in the Sunday Times yesterday, where he said, you know, if everything is trauma, then nothing is trauma. You know, if you start talking about how you've been traumatised because somebody said a word that you didn't like, then it kind of ceases to give any agency again to anybody else who's suffering trauma. You say, well, everybody's in the same boat. You know, whether you get, you know, shot at in a war zone or whether you get told you're a name that you don't like, it's the same thing. It's not, is it?
And we wonder why children have a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
Like, they're not being taught to be resilient. They're being taught to interpret, you know, sometimes unpleasant things that other people say, sometimes bad things that other people say. But, you know, I always said to my own children, you can't control what other people do. You can control how you react. Yeah. And that's putting the agency back in the child. I mean, the police shouldn't need to tell teachers this. This is a core teaching skill to understand that you don't have to, you know, react to people behaving badly. You can decide not to.
It is absolutely shocking. Good to talk to you, Helen. Thanks very much indeed. Helen Joyce, Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters.